Jim Harbaugh announced that most of the starters will not be playing in the Hall of Fame game, but one presumed starter will be Zion Johnson, and if it goes bad, it could be the end of that experiment.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 10 seasons, but this is our 8th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen. To make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Daniel, Chargers football is almost back, and I can't wait to watch it. I'd love to be able to see Justin Herbert and Derwin James stepping on that football field, but unfortunately, we will not be seeing either of those two gentlemen or really any of the other starters except for one in particular, and of course that is the center hopeful to be Zion Johnson. So we get to see what he looks like with the live bullets flying in game, and also we figured out that Trey Lance is going to be getting the bulk of the opportunities to play quarterback for the Chargers in the Hall of Fame game.
Yeah, and it does feel like there is kind of a world where the Chargers do hope that Trey Lance is the one that ends up winning that QB2 job on this team. But let's start with Jim Harbaugh just announcing something that they wouldn't do up until Tuesday's practice. That is saying that the veteran starters will not play. And he says that specifically because Omarion Hampton's a starter on this team right now. He will play, and we'll talk about the rookies getting their kind of first real chance to shine. But he did name, several players specifically that weren't going to be playing in that game, including obviously, Justin Herbert, Tarheeb Steele, Khalil Mack, Derwin James, Denzel Perryman, Deion Henley, Elijah Molden, and then the list goes on. He didn't mention, I don't believe, Cam Hart, so that's a kind of interesting one to, see, because that would be pretty, telling if he ends up playing in that game, and he is technically a veteran potential starter. He did say Benjamin St. Juste wouldn't play, and that might be more injury related, but did say that every other receiver will play in the game besides Quentin Johnston and Ladd McConkey. So Quentin Johnston counting as a starter and a veteran starter, not going to be playing. I'm also pretty sure that there's been some issues in the past with the field quality at the games in Canton, since it's not a normal NFL stadium, not hosting games all season long. But I don't think this is a surprise at all that we're not going to see those guys, at least for this week.
No, it's not a surprise at all to me. I mean, the Chargers get an extra preseason game, which is just another opportunity, I think, to get those guys that are still on that fringe, right? Trying to make a roster, a 53-man roster for the Chargers. This is another opportunity for them to put their play on film, to be able to put their best foot forward, to be able to try to make a spot. And we've heard it from coaches in the past. The preseason is not for the evaluation of players you already know who they are. It's for the people you are trying to get a better idea of what their play is and if they fit into the puzzle that is your 53-man roster.
Absolutely, and I think there will always be kind of an age-old debate about whether your starter should play at all in the preseason, and I think the hard thing is last year with Justin Herbert's plantar fascia injury, we don't know if he would have played in it, right? But I do think, David, there is an argument to be made that although they aren't playing this week, the starters, that there is still a chance that they will play at some point in the preseason. And I think the question becomes, should they play at some point in this preseason?
If you're asking me, 100% yes, they definitely should be playing at some point in the preseason, because I do not want the first time a running back, a receiver, a tight end gets hit to be in the regular season. I think you have to be able to build up that tolerance of absorbing that punishment, and also on the defensive side, delivering that punishment. I don't want the linebackers, the safeties, and the corners to be delivering their first hits on an offensive player in the regular season. I just think that callus
for the first time,
needs to be built up. Right, for the first time. I think that should be done. Also, I feel like it's a good opportunity to knock the rust off, get a successful drive under your belt on offense, be able to make some good stops on defense, go into the regular season feeling good, feeling confident, get in, get some plays in, and get out healthy for the real games that start in September.
Yeah, and it's also super interesting because Justin Herbert has never played in a preseason game, right?
This is
But
true.
if you go back to Jim Harbaugh's history as the head coach of the 49ers in his only other NFL stint, his quarterbacks, Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick, both played in all of the preseasons that he was the head coach for. So his history tells us that someone like a Justin Herbert will play at some point. I don't know if Rashawn Slater played. I can't remember if he played at all last year, but maybe the new
I don't
school
think
would
so.
kind of change that philosophy, right? Because I mean, if you know what they have, maybe you don't need to. But at the same time, to your point, when you have so many different pieces, right? I mean, you could have two out of your three starting receivers be new guys potentially if the rookies step up, right? You could
Yeah.
have a new tight end playing a major role in the offense in a Rondé Gadsden or even Tyler Conklin, right? And then totally new piece. Mekhi Becton, Joe Alt have never played against each other. Depending what happens on the left side, we could have a totally new combination of guys on the offensive line that have never played together. So I do think there is an argument to shaking the rest off. That being said, like there is obviously the ultimate downside. Whenever we have this conversation, I only think of one thing and one thing very specific to this team, and it's Ryan Matthews on the
Yeah.
first carry he got of the preseason in
Breaking his
2012.
collarbone.
And he broke his collarbone and then ended up breaking it again later that season. I think he only ended up missing 2 games because of it. But that is obviously the downside. You obviously, look at, what happened with Mike Williams
Yeah.
in a totally meaningless game in
Meaningless game,
2022, right? Where that was basically to keep the rust off was the only reason he played him in that game.
Yeah.
And he breaks his back literally. So, like, it is so hard. It is interesting, though, because the Chargers have a 4th preseason game this year. If it could go back to the model that we've seen from teams in the past, where that 3rd week of the preseason, not the direct week before, nobody's going to play in the 4th preseason game. They never do.
Right.
But in that 3rd preseason game, maybe they count that as kind of the dress rehearsal game. But there is a starter that will be playing, and it's Zion Johnson who's going to be playing at center in this game for a couple of drives per Jim Harbaugh. He is basically, to my knowledge, the only kind of veteran that is going to be playing that we presume will be a starter somewhere. Jim Harbaugh also backed that up in kind of an interesting thing, basically saying, hey, Andre James has had a few good practices in a row. Other guys have been coming on, but I still envision, per Alex Insdorf, that some combination will be Zion and Bradley Bozen starting next to each other, which he has said before, right? But maybe we're hoping maybe there could be some movement there with Jamari Sawyer playing well and also, seeing Andre James being pretty good so far. But to me, David, the story here is like, it could end this week. The experiment could end this week. I truly believe that. I mean, like, if they go out there with live bullets and, false starts and snaps over the head of Trey Lance, like, I truly think if it goes a certain amount of bad this week, it could be the end of the Zion Johnson at center experiment.
And you would never know until you put him in a game. So this is invaluable for the Chargers, for Zion Johnson, to see if their passion project, the thing that they've kind of been spearheading the entire offseason, almost pretty much since the end of last season, is, okay, we're going to start this transition of Zion Johnson from guard to center. We feel like he has all of the intangibles. We feel like he has all the intelligence. We feel like he has all of the physical ability to play the position at a high level. Okay, well, now it's the first time for him to show in a real game that he is capable of handling the responsibilities of being the commander in the middle of the offensive line, which is something that the Chargers have really kind of hedged the entire offseason. So we'll see if it's real. Obviously, I and a lot of other people are going to be keeping a very close eye on Zion Johnson and how he performs. And if he doesn't perform well, then yes, I agree with you. I think there is a very real chance that this would spell the end of the Zion Johnson at center experiment.
And that's why the Hall of Fame game for Chargers fans can be fun, right? Because it could literally go either way. Like, it feels like it's going to go one of two ways. Maybe it's just a so-so game that doesn't give you much, but it feels like you're going to find out either he can't do it or he enters himself as a real potential guy to compete for that spot. Jim Harbaugh did say that was still kind of the main competition on that offensive line as far as it regards guys starting, being, who's going to start at center, who's going to start at left guard between Bozeman and Zion Johnson. But if it starts affecting your evaluation of the rest of the guys on the second team offense and these other players because you don't have a guy who can snap or have guys fumbling or snapping over their head, It'll end quickly, I think. I mean, I'd like to see him even more than a couple of drives, but we're going to learn a lot. And I'm glad that even though most of the starters aren't playing, that Zion Johnson's not included in that, and we will get to see him play at center. But that's not all who we're going to see, because we get to see the rookies. And I think we should see all of the rookies for the first time tomorrow night. And that is exciting because some are playing for what their role is. It does feel like, Omarion Hampton, Trey Harris, Keandre Lambert-Smith, those weapons we get to see all in action for the first time. So we're talking about that and more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football is back. Fire up the group chat, get your draft board ready, and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all of the overreactions that we live for. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, me and David and the Locked On Chargers podcast are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. And I love Yahoo Fantasy because not only does it have just the best day-to-day operations, but it also helps you get prepared for your draft better than anywhere else. And that is a great spot to where if you're thinking about drafting some Chargers players, make sure you see how they feel and rank them so you're not just reaching and being a homer a little bit in your draft class. But they're also, to celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. And it all starts on August 4th. Stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy League at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. And let's make this fantasy season the best one yet. David, let's talk about the guys who will play on Thursday night. And I'm looking at the rookies. And tomorrow, since it's game day, we're going to be going over exactly who we're most excited to see. And I think tomorrow, what we'll have to start with is just getting to see Omarion Hampton for the first time. And we'll get more into that because there's just so much of his game you won't get to see, right, until you see him have to get tackled to the ground, right? Yeah. And that is really exciting because we haven't really heard much about him so far with only a couple padded practices under their belts. But Trey Harris and Keandre Lambert-Smith, can those guys continue, making plays and showing they should be, in consideration for more snaps? Jamari Caldwell, Kyle Kennard. There's so many kind of storylines just with these rookies, David, and I'm so excited that we get to see them for the first time tomorrow night.
Man, I could not be any more excited to watch this rookie class. There's so many different guys that have the opportunity to really start their journey in trying to establish themselves as members of this Chargers football team on offense and on defense. Guys like Trey Harris, like KLS, like Aronde Gaston II, a guy that's been lighting it up pretty much the entire offseason from OTAs to mini camp to training camp. He's a guy that's been going crazy. So I can't wait to see him in the football game, catching passes, doing his thing. But yes, this entire rookie class, there's opportunities up and down this rookie class for them to find their role and to be able to carve out their spot on this roster. I can't be more excited to watch it.
Well, and I mean, for us to this point, everything we know about these rookies has come from, secondhand knowledge or just clips on the internet. We get to see them and all of their flaws and all of their greatness on Thursday night. And I think it's also just interesting, too, because you do have, no Jalen Reagor probably. So that wide receiver 3 role feels very much up for grabs for one of those young guys, right? You also have, Aronde Gadsden probably without guys like Tyler Conklin and Will Dissly in front of him to take those snaps, having a big, role in this upcoming game. But more than that, to me, it's about the guys later on in the draft, right? Because I think, in my opinion, if you're drafted in the 6th or 7th round, you're not totally safe. And I think it's a little different for different guys, right? For Triquez Bridges, I think he still, started on the outside looking in and will have to go earn that spot, which is what preseason is great for. Yeah. But then you look at guys like a Branson Taylor, a 6th round pick, right? And RJ Mickens, a 6th or 7th round pick even. Those guys, or a late 6th round pick, those guys I don't think would get cut if the season started today. But I do think the preseason, as much as you can go earn a spot, you could also lose a spot too, or play yourself out of a roster spot. So I think those end of the draft guys, David, really are going to have a lot to play for on Thursday night.
Yeah, they really do. And yeah, for different reasons. For Branson Taylor, this is a guy who played tackle pretty much his entire collegiate career and is switching to guard at the NFL level. So how is he handling that transition? Is he able to, play in a more confined space? Is he able to have the power to anchor and to be able to drive people out of the way? And then for Triquez Bridges and RJ Mickens, you can't get burned. You just cannot get torched because everything is getting put on tape, and these guys are probably going to be playing a lot on defense, not just on special teams, although they're going to have to make an impact in that realm as well, for sure. And we know RJ Mickens has played a ton, and Triquez Bridges has that type of speed to be able to profile as a gunner on the outside. So these guys all have different pathways to be able to make the roster, but you can't embarrass yourself in any preseason game, especially not this one, where Jim Harbaugh made the point to say pretty much everybody in the sports world is going to be watching the Hall of Fame game because it is the kickoff to the greatest game in the world. The football season begins on Thursday night.
Yeah, King Sport is back. And I mean, I think football is really the only kind of sport where you get this up for the preseason because it is just the signaling of football being back on Thursday night. And this isn't just, any preseason game. This is one that truly the whole world is watching. All football fans alike come together and say, hey, let's go. Football is back. And then we'll get over the preseason for a while, right? And they can't wait for the regular season. But this is something. And I do think the Chargers have enough storylines that it's going to be very interesting because like a Triquez Bridges, right? You have a Nico Reed that could be pushing to make you cornerback 8 in that room
no
right
question.
now. So it's like it's going to be a battle. But there are also several players that would have played Thursday night, but we probably won't see, including Justin Eboigbe. And that one is a bummer. Been out of practice the last couple of days. Upset that we won't see the new and improved Justin Eboigbe for sure.
Yeah, that's one that makes me pretty upset, man, because it just seems like, the hype train, after him doing really nothing his rookie season, like really nothing
snaps,
at all.
Yeah.
26 snaps, barely seen. I mean, nothing of consequence. You really couldn't remember him. He was just a small blip on the radar of the 2024 season. So we'll see, at some point if he's able to get back. These, especially with him being on the back end of that defensive line rotation, as we're saying this right now, you have to be able to take all of your opportunities and make the most of them because his spot is definitely not guaranteed. I think there's plenty of guys in that room that are showing up and playing well, at least in practice, that, could definitely push him off the roster if he misses too much time. And also, I think another guy that we're all excited to see that the Chargers obviously coveted in the undrafted free agent world, that's Rocket Sanders, man. I mean, unfortunately, he just came back from his injury, but I don't think it's enough time for him to be able to be in game shape to get on the field and play, which is a little upsetting for me because I really was excited to see what this guy was going to be able to do and just figured that he was going to get a ton of snaps. And as long as he's able to get back healthy, I'm sure he still probably will.
Yeah, I think the good news for him is as an undrafted free agent, even if he misses this upcoming game, which I believe the reports were he was back at practice, but just not participating in team drills, which makes it feel unlikely he's playing on Thursday night. We haven't heard that specifically. But it just feels like it's going to have to wait another week, and he's still going to have the same kind of 3 preseason games to show what he can do. So, you miss out on the bonus one, right? And that is a rare opportunity, for these guys to have these undrafted free agents specifically to have kind of 4 showcase games to really not just show the Chargers like you talked about, but show other teams as well to try to catch on to a roster somewhere. But he'll still have 3 games to do it. Assuming, he can stay healthy and, that is the kind of thin, line that these guys have to walk across during these times as undrafted free agents. You do miss a couple of games. That could be it. You could be the most, talented undrafted free agent in the world. If you miss 2 or 3 games, you're toast probably, know? So with Justin Eboigbe, I don't think he's in any danger of getting cut, at least after the impressive practices that we've seen so far. I think that's highly unlikely, just because I don't know who would push him off, right? I don't see a Scott Matlock pushing him off. Tito Bonia, maybe if he was the last guy. It's hard to say, but what I would say, though, is it's a very competitive defensive line group, and those snaps are not going to be easy to get because, from everyone we hear from, including the coaches themselves, there's 6 dudes plus that can play in that room, and that's going to be a really, really competitive room. Justin Eboigbe might not be on the roster bubble, in my opinion, but what he could be is, on the fringe of being a starter for this team, and if he wants to be a starter in his second season, it's going to happen, be because of what he does or doesn't do during these games. So to miss a game for him, that sucks, especially just because, like, from what we've heard, he just looks like a completely different player and has been playing so much better. But we still have more to get into, including the Chargers giving the reins over to Trey Lance and giving him some game experience. And my kind of theory that the Chargers actually want him to usurp Taylor Heineke so they can do what Greg Roman loves to do, especially with backup quarterbacks, and that is run a read option, run a quarterback-heavy run style of offense that Jim Harbaugh won't let him do with Justin Herbert. So we're getting into all that and more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. And let's be honest, some days on the course or off of it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and stay energized. I know that, especially because on the rare occasions I do get to go golf now, man, I need it with having a baby and all of that energy-wise. But also, you never know what you're going to run into on the golf course. And I had a friend, my friend, shout out to Tim Lopez, who picked up a rattlesnake on the, 14th hole of Mission Trails golf course in San Diego, right next to a ball that one of my other buddies hit, but then immediately ran 150 feet away for. So always great to be alert out on the golf course, and to have a transfusion is also awesome. But golf is all about the good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. David, we still have a lot more to get into, including Trey Lance being handed the reins to this game. And not only that, but getting to play a half plus is what Jim Harbaugh is saying. And also kind of Taylor Heineke, even as a guy, who's a known commodity, a little bit of a surprise he's not going to get any run in the first game. But also, hopefully this offense with Trey Lance looks a lot better than the sloppy offense that showed up at practice on Tuesday, according to all of the reports. But thank you guys, as always, for making this your first listen. If you need a second listen, make sure to check out Locked On Bets. Betting experts Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have daily MLB locks and can't miss football futures. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast from. Trey Lance, David, according to Jim Harbaugh, is going to get to play the entire first half and will get the start against the Lions on Thursday night in the Hall of Fame game. And that's a little interesting, but I thought that Jim Harbaugh gave a really good reason for it, which is just, I wanted to give Trey Lance game experience. And he basically went on to say that Trey Lance came into this league from North Dakota State, where they had a COVID season where basically he missed a full season there. Didn't really play in many games before being taken as a top 3 pick in the draft. And even since he's been in the NFL, has barely played in any games at all. So I totally understand that. I think they want to see what the offense looks like with him. I think they want to see how he fits into this offense with Greg Roman, and just kind of want to give him as many chances in game scenarios, because really, David, he has all the physical tools. He was a hugely hyped up prospect. The problem is when he's gotten into the game scenarios, he hasn't been great. So get him in that situation, see what he looks like here.
Yeah, it's been a lot of Jekyll and Hyde for him throughout his career. It's the flashy running ability and the flashes of really good arm strength and good accuracy, but then it's the 3 or 4 or 5 interceptions that go along with it. It's kind of the Teddy Bridgewater experience, right? He's great. Not Teddy Bridgewater. I'm sorry.
Jameis Winston?
Jameis Winston.
I was going to say, I don't know what Teddy's taking that straight
Teddy
there.
was good. Teddy was good.
Yeah.
No, Jameis Winston, just being great for 2 or 3 quarters and then just completely melting down and disappearing. So I do think it's very important for Trey Lance to get as much opportunities as possible, get on the field, get comfortable. You should have a pretty good cadre of weapons to be able to throw the football to, with, Keandre Lambert-Smith and, Trey Harris, and hopefully having Omarion Hampton at running back there behind him. So you should have some weapons around him to be able to see what he's capable of doing for a little over a half.
And more than that, him having the weapons, David, those weapons will be in such a better spot than they were last year when it was Easton Stick Luis Perez and Max Duggan, right?
Yeah.
That like, I mean, God, those guys felt like it was a Jameis Winston, fever dream for a lot of training camp last year, with the defense dominating every single day and just having
Yeah.
no idea what to expect from the offense with Justin Herbert out. But I mean, talk about, please Lord deliver me from pick sixes. That shouldn't be the case with Trey Lance. I expect it to be a little bit better than that. But it gives Greg Roman the chance to kind of flex what his offense can look like with a true kind of dual threat running back or quarterback. And I do think, not that Justin Herbert isn't a dual threat guy, but Justin Herbert, there's different, 260 million reasons not to let him go hurt himself. Like with Trey Lance, I heard Daniel Popper in his practice report on Hops with Pop earlier saying, like, when Trey Lance is in there, dude, they're doing a lot of read option. They're doing a lot of quarterback veer and power and stuff like that. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad strategy, David. We've talked about it before. Like, there's no one. Taylor Heineke is a better pocket, traditional style NFL quarterback and play within a system type of a thing. But with Trey Lance, neither one of these guys can run the offense like Justin Herbert does. They can't run the Justin Herbert offense. And we've seen with Greg Roman in the past, specifically with, Lamar Jackson getting hurt in back-to-back years and then being able to at least stay afloat. They went 3-5 with Tyler Huntley as their quarterback, leaning into that kind of thing. So there is a part of me that kind of feels like, especially with Taylor Heineke being the emergency third QB here, that they kind of hope that Trey Lance takes over as that QB2.
Yeah, I mean, we know Greg Roman likes that style of quarterback, that type of player with that athleticism and, the ability to run with the football at the quarterback position. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely not far-fetched to assume that they might want somebody who has his kind of skill set to be the guy behind Justin Herbert, because they know that Greg Roman has experience running the type of offense that quarterback kind of, stars in. So, yeah, I think that's definitely a good point, and we'll see how he's able to play. I mean, they've said that he's made plays. Obviously, we've heard about the interceptions. We've also seen some good throws from Trey Lance.
Sounds like he's
played
pretty well. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, altogether it's been pretty decent. Hopefully he's able to show himself well, because I do think he does have a legitimate opportunity to be the backup quarterback for the Chargers. But I don't know if it's going to be lost in this game. But it would be good for him to go out there and put out a good performance.
Well, with Justin Herbert having some sort of, significant injury, even though he only missed real time, 2 years ago in 2023, it's 3 years in a row where he's had something pretty significant. So to have a potential long-term backup that you feel like could come in and tread water for you, win you games potentially, because we saw the 0-4 in 2023 with Easton Stick once he took over, right, in the 63-21 game.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to avoid at all costs. Somebody who can come in and just give you a chance. And, with Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh to a lot of extent, like, I don't think they would mind going to an offense that's rushing the ball 35 times a game and trying to win with a great running game and good defense. But a lot of that kind of depends on how much better the running game actually is. But hopefully on Thursday night, it looks a lot better than what Tuesday's practice looked like, because per Eric Smith, per Daniel Popper, it was a pretty choppy day for the offense, a pretty sloppy day from the offense, and a ton of drops, a ton of mistakes out there. Hopefully it looks better than that.
Yeah, we're talking 6 different drops from guys like Tyler Conklin and Keandre Lambert-Smith, Will Dissly, even Aronde Gadsden II, DJ Uyunglele, having the ball slip out of his hand, even Bradley Bozeman having a botched snap to Justin Herbert. It was a sloppy practice by all accounts. But this is where it needs to happen, right? You make the mistakes in practice, you get the film, you review the film, and you improve on those mistakes. This is where you want it to happen. Obviously, you never want to make mistakes, but you're going to, and that's how you get better.
Yeah, I mean, per Daniel Popper, 6 drops at practice, like you said. But, I mean, I think the most surprising one is Tyler Conklin. I mean, super uncharacteristic for him, dropping 2 passes in practice after not having a single drop all of last season at the NFL level, which is pretty crazy. So I think that's pretty uncharacteristic. Quentin Johnston didn't have a drop, at least from the reports that I saw, but did have a play where Justin Herbert was looking for him on a post route, and it seemed like he kind of pulled up. There was a safety over top, but the throw probably would have beaten him anyways. And it looked like he kind of just gave up on the route. So just not great all the way around. It's hard to really give the defense a ton of credit, too, because it's like Triquez Bridges gets an interception, but it's a blatant drop by Keandre Lambert-Smith that leads to it, right? So it felt like it wasn't just the drops. Supposedly Justin Herbert, airmailed Quentin Johnson like at the very beginning of practice, and that kind of just set the tone for what was a really sloppy practice. But all the way around, not a great practice for the Chargers offense. Eric Smith did say the defense was swarming, but in days like this, it's really hard to tell how much of it is the defense playing great, or in this case, it feels like more of just the offense. If you have 6 drops, the defense is going to have, feel pretty good about itself after that day. But I do think that this is another thing, maybe even another kind of feather in the cap of, potentially playing some guys in the preseason together a little bit and getting those live bullets, because when you have so many new pieces, 2 new tight ends, 2 new wide receivers, a new starting offensive lineman, a new backup quarterback potentially, whatever the case may be, a brand new running back, these days are going to happen. And I think that what you hope the most is just like, hey, you're getting them kind of out of the way right now. These practices were always going to happen when you have the amount of turnover that this team had. And that this is kind of just, great teach tape, a great learning day, because that is what this time of the year is all about. This feels like a practice. I'm thinking back to my film sessions on, Saturday mornings just after high school games and how much I dreaded those at times. Not going to be a fun film rewatch on this one, but one that should make players a lot better from it and for it. So that is going to wrap things up for today's show. Make sure you guys are back here tomorrow because it's game day. Thursday night football, Lions, Chargers, Hall of Fame game with Antonio Gates headed to his gold jacket ceremony. So much to look forward to, but the main thing we're looking forward to is seeing Omarion Hampton, the first round running back, in full pads, full speed with live bullets for the first time. So make sure you guys are back here tomorrow as we break down the players we're most excited to see from the offense, defense, undrafted free agents, you name it. We'll be talking about it tomorrow, but to make sure you don't miss it, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from, as well as following us wherever you get your social media from, at Locked On LAC on Twitter. We post the show to every day, as well as at Locked On Chargers on Instagram and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page too. And probably going to do a live show after the game. I would expect. Me and David haven't talked about it yet, but more than likely we do what we'll have and always will do. And that's a live show after the game to break down what I'm sure will be a lot to talk about. But thank you guys. As always, make sure you're back here tomorrow as we preview the first preseason game. But until then, take it easy and go Bolts.